The refusal to philosophize implies supporting some implicit, naive, unverbalized conception of philosophy that the person may be advocating. So this is how we find that there are this multiplicity of philosophies, and therefore no one philosophy can be judged as this is right and the other is wrong. Now, what is philosophy? Philosophy is aimed at theoretical satisfaction through rationality, and it is trying to comprehend the whole of reality. And we know that there are these concepts in the philosophical triangle: the absolute, the lived world, and the other material phenomena, nature, number, interrelation. Between all these constitutes philosophical activity, and in this intellectual enterprise, a philosopher may uh, concentrate on more than one or two of these concepts, and even though the person may concentrate on one concept, the person cannot ignore or overlook the other two, because a human being is situated in the world, interacts with the material world, and the other conscious beings, nature, uh, the human beings, the subhuman species, and the superhuman reality. So, even while we take up any one particular concept, it will have to be sort of holistic in the sense that it cannot ignore but take into account the other phenomena also. Now, Professor Murthy and Radhakrishnan, both of them were um, having a traditional background, and both of them were statesmen, and both served as liaison officers, like a bridge between the East and the West. And in that, Radhakrishnan played a pioneering role where his parents, Sitama and Veeraswamy, he was born at Tirupani near Chennai. Both are pilgrim towns, and his early life in a traditional atmosphere and a spiritual place deepened his strength and conviction in the invisible reality and the tradition and scriptures. And thereafter, his school and college education in Christian missionary institutions. Yesterday, you might have heard Dr. Paneerselvam stating that in MCC, these Christian fathers, they were highly critical about the Hindu attitude towards life. And so he wanted to study Indian scriptures and then, and his exposure to both Indian and Western philosophy, and his grounding in Indian culture and study of Western philosophy, he was able to, sort of translate and communicate Indian concepts in Western terminology and Western concepts in Indian terms for cross fertilization of ideas, for exchange, understanding, and appreciation of their mutual philosophies. And he says that philosophy is like science. Both seek truth. While philosophy probes the interior, science seeks truth in the external world. Science takes a partial view of reality. Philosophy tries to comprehend the whole of reality in all its perspectives, and science accepts certain postulates, but philosophy has to defend every premises of it. It has to be logically justified. And anything that is not corroborated by science or by experience, he says, it should have to be abandoned. It has to be, in keeping with scientific knowledge. And so, whatever is redundant and contradicts science should be eliminated, and there is no place for religious dogmas or superstitious beliefs, even though they have the sanctity of scriptures. If we do that, if we study, interpret, and do this kind of activity, very many systems and concepts and beliefs that are promoted and practiced in the name of religion, the world will be saved from the horrors of that. So, this is what Dr. Radhakrishnan says, that philosophy should guide human actions, it should ennoble human life, and every life, all beings are equal, all are manifestations of the divine, and all of them have a capacity for liberation, Sarvamukti concept. And here in his philosophy called idealism, we see that he takes up the views of Shankara, that reality is both immanent and transcendent, equality of beings, everything as a manifestation of the absolute. And then, like Ramanuja, he gives a higher place to Saguna Brahman in total difference of the Advaita view, which places Nirguna Brahman on the highest place. So here you find Radhakrishnan giving importance to the concept of God like Visishtadvaita, and for him there are three sources of knowledge: sense experience, knowledge through the mind, intellect, discursive knowledge, and intuition. And intuition is the highest way of knowing the truth. It is integral experience, knowledge synthesized through what you get through sense data and intellectual knowledge. And he says both are complementary ultimately, and no true intuitive knowledge will contradict science, because that knowledge itself is scientific. I will tell you how I justify this view. When you say science, any when we take content wise, botany deals with plants, zoology deals with animals, astronomy with the planets, all that. Another interpretation of branch of science is any systematic logical study of a phenomenon is a science. That way, when we take up science, Shastra, there is this Anubandha Chatushtaya, and when we go by Indian standards, a science, it has, for any branch of knowledge to be called Shastra, should fulfill four criteria. First, you have to state the pramana. Indian philosophy, Shruti. Now, what is the content? Because empirical pramanas cannot give you knowledge of the ineffable, the highest realities which are non-sensible. They are beyond the scope of the senses and the mind. Yatho vasho nivartante aprapya manasasaha. So, empirical pramanas, pratyaksha, anumana, upamana, arthapatti, anupalabdhi, cannot comprehend the highest reality. Only Shruti can give you that knowledge, but it is aparoksha jnana for us. Although it is aparoksha jnana for the rishis who had first-hand intuitive knowledge, when we study scriptures, it is theoretical knowledge for us. It is still not being converted into intuitive or experiential knowledge. Alright, so for us, we have to be guided by these scriptural declarations, just like the scientists accept the formulae or axioms or the theories of scientific predecessors, the scientists, and then they conduct their experiments based on that input. So also for philosophy, Radhakrishnan says purity of the soul is important, and for that, like in Advaita, we have that Tanubandha Chatushtaya. He says we have to rid ourselves of ego, all these petty desires for the non-eternal, and then develop that mental set of faculty, because the mind is the instrument through which we have to apprehend reality. We see the world, it is in and through the mind that we have to know reality. And so, just like one thorn, with one thorn, you remove another thorn. It is through the mind we have to transcend the mind. So, just like you take one thorn, remove the thorn, discard. So, through the mind, ethics and metaphysics must culminate and terminate in intuition. Intuition includes the intellect and transcends it. So, the consummation of the intellect, the purpose is uh, intuitive knowledge, and that is how the jiva connects with the supreme. And intuition, it is a response of the whole being to that absolute, and no two intuitions can be contradictory. Intuitive experience is the same, but you have a diversity of interpretations because each philosopher tries to communicate that knowledge which he has in his own terminology, depending upon the audience with which a person may be interacting. And I told you the socio political, religious values and other conditions and criteria that may prevail in the society at a particular point of time. So, whether it is the aparoksha jnana, aparokshanubhuti of the Upanishads, or whether it is the truth of Christ, the bodhi of Guru Buddha, and the inspiration of Prophet Muhammad, all are the same. And here I would like to give you the example of a wheel. If you take the center, all the spokes they converge at the center. But when you go towards the periphery, all of them radiate. So also, all the mystics, prophets, saints all over the world, with regard to their mystic experience, it is the same. But when it comes to interpretation, there is a divergence due to giving linguistic and verbal expression to that integral insight, intuitive experience, which is the core of all religions. That is the truth, that is the core of all religions, and that is what is unifying principle. And this is what he calls as perennial philosophy. And he identifies four orders. That is the material phenomena in which consciousness is dormant, then plant life where perception is there, then animals in where they have perception and action, and ultimately human beings who have willpower in addition to perception and action. So the absolute is truth, goodness, beauty, creative willpower as God, the source of all creation, both immanent and transcendent, and the purpose of human life is attained through realization, this intuitive experience of reality. And for this, as a statesman, he advocates democracy. Democracy, equal dignity, equality of human beings, and equal access through governance in society, because this has to be implemented. So, religion has to be philosophy constantly updated, revised, and reinterpreted, and this is where he uses his comparative methodology for studying religions and to make it intelligible to the others across the globe and in one's own society. He calls for, an open-mindedness and rational approach without prejudices, and this is how a person can include reality. And for that, one has to equip oneself with, I told you, these moral prerequisites: mental tranquility, self-control, purity, compassion, and other virtues that will help in conduct, good conduct. And finally, hankering after liberation for attaining the reality. And this is how we find Sachidananda Murthy evaluating Professor Radhakrishnan's philosophy. And uh, people may say, what is it that he has done? He has only taken concepts from here and there. P.T. Raju says he is like Shankara. Another may say that he is like Ramanuja, giving importance to God, and the integral philosophy like Sri Aurobindo, and this concept of this Sarvamukti and equality for all, equal liberation of all humankind, and the conscious phenomena. So he says this is Nagarjuna's philosophy. Here we should know that Radhakrishnan says, I have studied very many people. I have been inspired and stimulated by them, but I am not indebted to any of them, because my philosophy is my original formulation on rational terms, although I may incorporate concepts from other philosophers like Belpuri. You make everybody, but taste differs. You use the same ingredients, but taste differs. Each person may add less or more or whatever. So where it comes to originality, you should note that there are two kinds of discoveries. Discovery in science is identifying a species not known earlier, a new species of butterfly, a species of frog, or some structure in the genes, something which, or a discovery of a new planet or a star that was not known earlier, but now because of technology all this has been made possible, or that that atom cannot be split. Now it has been discovered that there are all these cellular, intracellular phenomena. All these are discoveries in science. But discovery in philosophy, originality is showing new interrelationships between human experience, the lived phenomena around the material world, and things. So here, interpretation of the familiar concepts, old wine in new bottle. You take the old concepts, and that way even scientists are indebted to their predecessors because they make use of the same concepts, and then they come up with their theories and whatever their enterprises, academic enterprise. So here also, philosophy, you agree with the others, you may reject the others, or we may partially modify that pre-existing philosophy, but what constitutes the originality in that philosopher is his new interrelation, the new interpretation that revision of the previous material, and the alternative view or concepts that may be put forward by a philosopher, that constitutes his originality. So we should not say that there is no Indian philosophy, because all these philosophers have put their own different systems. And Dr. Radhakrishnan says, just because a system of philosophy appeals to intuition as a source of knowledge, it does not cease to be philosophy or be recognized as philosophy, because philosophy should take into consideration all kinds of human experience, and for a religious or spiritual philosophy, religious experience is very important. Therefore, we have to take sense data, rationally interpreted, but the final clinching point is religious experience. And therefore, this is how he interprets his philosophy, differs from his predecessors, and he has contributed original philosophy from his own side. Judged by the, it's a beautiful quotation where Professor Murthy sums up Dr. Radhakrishnan. I just read it out for you. Judged by any standard, the quality of his message, the way he has conveyed it, the comprehensiveness of his work, vast literature, the works that he has put forward, Dr. Radhakrishnan, the volume of his output, and the impact he has made on the world. Judged by any of these standards, he is one of the greatest philosophers of our age. Thank you.
So, on behalf of Indian Philosophical Congress, I thank you very much, Shanthakumari, for your excellent endowment lecture on case Murthy. Shanthakumari's specialty lies in preparing a written paper, keeping it aside, and talking extempore. I also cooperate. So now, she was talking about the evaluation of Radhakrishnan's philosophy done by KSM. KSM happens to be one of the stalwarts in modern Indian philosophy, alongside of
both Telugu Andhra Vice Chancellor, Andhra University.
Yes.
And
KSM took philosophy to educational administration. As Dr. Shanthakumari just now said, she was the Vice Chancellor of Andhra University and Vice Chairman of University Grants Commission for some time. Professor Radhakrishnan took it as a challenge to establish that the Indian philosophy is something, and something which is better than what is done in the West, which is complaining that Indian philosophy is a corpus of stories, fables, and metaphysics and all that. Philosophy, according to Radhakrishnan, is an activity. It's an activity to take on what is happening at the first order, science, religion, etc. And they are all to be coordinated and to be taken to a higher plane. As Shanthakumari was explaining, through the analogy of wheel, the spokes are diverse, but they
Meet in the center.
meet at the hub of that wheel. Ramakrishnan laid emphasis on intuition as the ultimate source of knowledge. The available sources, perception, intelligence, etc., they give us tools which we manage with for everyday affairs, but it can take us to the highest knowledge. As he said very appropriately, that you have to transcend mind in and through the mind. And the Bhagavad Gita puts it, Evam Buddho Para Buddhya Yoga Samstapati.
Knowledge through identity, knowledge through being, that is inclusion.
To know is to be, to know is to be. So this is how she put the evaluation of KSL of the philosophy of Dr. Radhakrishnan. Now the lecture is open to discussion. I will take up only 2-3 questions because time is very short. Please.
Subject object is transcended.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, please.
Yeah, sir, it was a nice lecture. And what I understand by the intuitive experience is same as previous elucidation or practice elucidation, because they were also trying to move from propositions, transcending propositions by propositions.
So,
Beautiful,
one
beautiful.
minute,
You are
I'll tell you here. See, the intuition which Indian philosophy speaks about and the way it is used in the West are totally different. Alright? So, please, this is aparoksha jnana. Just like, there is a group of 10 people who cross the river, and then after crossing they try to check whether all the 10 of them have safely crossed, and then the person who is counting forgets to count himself and he says only 9. Then the other 2 fellows also confirm that error. Then a sadhu comes by and then he says, you are the 10. Then he realizes identity by belief. So the intuition here is experiential knowledge, but intuition may be different in Western philosophy. The content and method may be totally different if it is not mystic experience.
That is it, but he was referring to Woodkins and Stractadus.
Whatever.
The Tractadarian position comes very near to this position to transcend mind in and through the mind. That is it.
So
Thank you. The next one.
you had to be careful on that.
I
Another
didn't
question.
complete it.
Yes.
So I just wanted to understand whether Radhakrishnan's intuitive experience, if it is having content, then it cannot transcend.
Listen.
I mean-
Listen. How can there be any knowledge without any object?
You mean the activity of transcending?
What you are transcending? What? There must be some standard, na?
But if you are clinging to what is already there, then you cannot transcend. You have to
This
move.
object-object duality will not be there in that experience.
See, suppose somebody comes here. Alright. What is your name?
Balaji.
Alright. Is Balaji here? Where is he? Alright. You say, I am he. Alright. The person referred to and you are the same, isn't it? So here, what is it? Consciousness minus body identity. Understand? So all sages' mistakes, they identify themselves as conscious beings minus the ego which individuates them from the rest of the group.
But that consciousness cannot be captured at all. Whenever you try to capture it, it goes beyond.
Yeah, it's like the horizon. Like more you go,
So it does not have content.
Listen. When you are sleeping, you are not aware of anything. Then somebody calls you. Then you have woken up. Only after you have become awake, then you realize that. But what happened during speech, you don't know. No? The same is that as long as you are in that samadhi state, in that one consciousness, that time there is no duality. But it depends upon the person's good fortune whether they can always remain in that state. Even if it is Buddha, he has to come down. The yogi has to come down to take the experience. That is how they are able to work for the society and the downtrodden and show them the way out. If they remained in that state, which Radha Krishna says, you have to work for the suffering humanity. Like
Shanthaji, Balaji has perhaps in his mind the position of Gilbert Ryle in the concept of mind. But that is not here. Here after the seeker it says the highest position, nos of Punaravati. There is no undulation. There is no undulation there.
And for this you have a beautiful example. That is where rope snake example. Duck rabbit Wittgenstein, you can see the duck,
Okay,
you can
Shanthaji,
see the rabbit at different times.
We will take up some
But
question.
once you see the rope, you cannot see the
We will
same
take up some
snake again.
question.
You cannot see the same snake again.
Shanthaji, yes.
Sir, you see, when we look at the world or the universe, we must have a holistic view. We have one angle, there is a epistemological, metaphysical, moral, and aesthetic, like that. So, like social view by social law or social view by law by speculation, by philosophizing, whatever maybe. But when we like a philosopher, Dr. Radhakrishnan, we are discussing with him or doing a studying or doing exploring his philosophy. We have to get together. You see, I am telling one example. Sarkwell intuition, okay. That you are very well known about Aurobindo's mysticism going on. Intuition was refers by effect to mysticism. That is very rough, and that consciousness and manas, all those, these are now these not acceptable. Because if we look at the ideal view of life of Radhakrishna, where we think about the social philosophy and the philosophy of a common sense, common sense, philosophy of common sense, and you will find that he is more perfectly holistic, not intuitionist. Really, we are doing philosophy.
He is a holist, not an intuitionist. Please, ma'am. Radhakrishnan is a holist.
Holistic philosophy.
He is
Yes.
holistic.
That is what I told you,
Holistic
integral
philosophy.
experience. You have to combine everything.
Okay.
You have to take combine scientific view, sense data, and in the light of the world, make philosophy practically applicable for the betterment of humankind.
So thank you, Dr. Shanthakumari, for your nice lecture and your reaction to the questions raised by the audience.
It's democracy.
I thank the audience.
Democracy.
My point is that when we see, you can't just put one.
It is over. No,
What?
no, please.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So the discussion is over, and I thank all the audience for that present hearing and reacting to the lecture of Dr. Shanthakumari. The podium does not belong to me. I hand